Welcome to Muscles and Magic the Gathering, and you are here because you want to know how to build an amazing, an impeccable, a stellar, a perfect Legendary Matters deck. And this deck is the king of Legendary Matters decks. It's called the League of Legends. My commander is Jodah the Unifier. Now, this deck is featured, or I shouldn't say featured. This deck is heavily filled. It features legendary creatures, legendary artifacts, and legendary enchantments. Again, this is a Legendary Matters deck. And who better to be a commander of a Legendary Matters deck than Jodah the Unifier? That's our commander. Legendary creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. Whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So again, you fill your deck with legendary creatures, you're going to do well with this commander. But we didn't just fill our deck with legendary creatures. I put a lot of thought into this, so stay tuned for a couple surprises. Speaking of creatures, now that we went over the commander, there are no planeswalkers in this deck, by the way, because the planeswalkers do not work well with Jodah the Unifier, all right? So for creatures, the first three up are not legendary. They are mana ramp cards. We have Delighted Halfling, the Bloom Tender, and the Birds of Paradise. That said, Delighted Halfling works with legendary creatures, so a great card to have in this deck. But 3 mana ramp cards, because it is a 5-color deck, we're going to need some serious mana ramp and some mana fixing. Now for the creatures. The first one, Rona, Herald of Invasion. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, untap it. You can draw a card, then discard a card. Transform Rona, activate only as a sorcery. And if you transform Rona, you get Rona, Tolarian Obliterator. It's a 5/5 with trample. Whenever a source deals damage to Rona, Tolarian Obliterator, that source's controller exiles a card from their hand at random. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. Great card. Myral, Shield of Argive. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. So a great shutdown piece. And whenever it attacks, create X 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, where X is the number of soldiers you control. Satora the Infiltrator works great with the commander. Whenever this or one or more non-token creatures enter the battlefield under your control, if none of them were cast or no mana was spent to cast them, draw a card. So you're already seeing a lot of card draw in this deck. I said this before, I'll say it again. There's no such thing as too much card draw in commander. Faramir, the Steward of Gondor. It's one of those Monarch cards in the beginning of your end step. If you're the Monarch, create 2/1/1 white human soldier creature tokens, all right? And how do you become the Monarch? Well, whenever a legendary creature with mana value 4 or greater enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Eowyn, Shield Maiden. Human Knight, legendary creature. First strike at the beginning of combat on your turn. If another human entered the battlefield under your control this turn, create 2/2 red Human Knight creature tokens and trample at haste. Then if you control 6 or more humans, draw a card. Captain Sisay, search your library for a legend or legendary card. Reveal that card, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. So kind of a tutor for my legendary creatures. Eomer, Marshal of Rohan. Whenever one or more attacking legendary creatures you control die, untap all creatures you control after this phase with an additional combat phase. Cassandra, Eagle Bearer. When Cassandra enters the battlefield, search your graveyard, hand, or library for a card named Spear of Leonis, put it into your hand and shuffle. Whenever a creature you control the legendary equipment attached to it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So again, that card draw theme. Eowyn, Fearless Knight. When Eowyn, Fearless Knight enters the battlefield, exile target creature an opponent controls with greater power. Legendary creatures you control gain protection from each of that creature's colors till the end of turn. Cleopatra, Allies. At the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 other target legendary creatures. Betrayal, whenever a legendary creature with counters on it dies, draw a card for each counter on it. You lose 2 life. Audric, Lunarch, Marshal. At the beginning of combat, creatures you control gain first strike until the end of turn if a creature you control has first strike. Same's true for flying, death touch, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, sculpt, trample, vigilance, all the things. One of my favorite cards here. I got to be more careful with my cards. I just knocked those over. I apologize. But we have Negan, Cold-Blooded, for the Walking Dead set. I love this card. Absolute chaos, and I love chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. When Negan enters the battlefield, you and target opponent each secretly choose a creature that player controls. Then those choices are revealed. That player sacrifices those creatures. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a creature, you create a treasure token. Love that card. Adolin Resplendent Cathar. Adolin Resplendent Cathar's power is equal to the number of creatures you control. Whenever you attack, for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or planeswalker they control. The same. All right, whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. A lot of historic spells in here. Historic spells, legendary creatures, artifacts. Okay, so here we go with these. Whenever Basim deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on it. So lots of card draw, lots of counters. As long as it's your turn, other historic creatures you control have double strike. Kellen the Kid. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may cast a permanent spell with equal or lesser mana value from your hand without paying its counter. Its casting cost. All right. If you don't, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. And what I was trying to spit out is another card with a lot of synergy with the commander. Right. Ivor Raven Clan Champion, otherwise known as Nihila the Blade Blossom. Whenever a warrior attacks, you may have its controller create a 1/1 white warrior creature token that's tapped and attacking. Pay all the mana. Untap all attacking creatures. They gain trample, lifelink, and haste until the end of turn. And after this phase, there's additional combat phase. All right. Sisse, the Weatherlight Captain, gets 1/1 for each other color among legendary permanents you control. Search your library for a legendary permanent card with mana value less than Sisse's power, then put that card back onto the battlefield, then shuffle. All right. This is kind of like my secret commander. I will use these interchangeably. So another great commander for a 5-color deck for legendary creatures. Aragorn the Uniter, great card from Lord of the Rings. Whenever you cast a white spell, create a 1/1 white human creature token. Whenever you cast a blue spell, scry 2. Red spell, 3 damage to target opponent. Green spell, +4/+4 till the end of turn. We have Sean and Rebecca Agents. When Sean and Rebecca Agents enter the battlefield, search your graveyard, hand, and or library for a card named the Animus. Put it into play. You can also get a mana and mill a couple of cards. Reki, the History of Kamigawa. Whenever you play a legendary spell, draw a card. Goldbug. And by now, hopefully you've seen a theme. Let's actually hold off on Goldbug. Let's talk about Hajar. Sacrifice Hajar, loyal bodyguard, legendary creatures you control, get +1/+0 and gain indestructible to the end of turn. And then let's talk about Goldbug, but I'm going to put him back to his normal side. All right. Goldbug, humanity's ally. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking humans you control. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, convert Goldbug. Let's convert him now. All right. I should have had that organized for you. I didn't. I apologize, but I'm just excited to show you my cards. Human spells you control can't be countered. All right. So, did you notice something about this deck? Now, I said it earlier, you could just take a bunch of legendary creatures and you would be able to build a good deck with Jodah. But there's a sub-theme here. The sub-theme is humans, right? I do have a mono white humans deck, but then what do I do with my humans that are blue, my humans that are red, my humans that are green? And honestly, a lot of them turned out to be legendary. So look at this. That's a human enabler. Human, 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 human. I mean, I don't need to go on, but all these legendary creatures are human. So there is a sub-theme in this deck. This is my secondary human deck, but it's also my Legendary Matters deck. And then the card that makes it all come together. This card is a savage. It's a monster. I use this in any deck that's got a lot of these historic type spells. Whenever I cast a historic spell, I draw a card. So artifacts, legendaries, sagas, I'm getting a card. Card draw in this deck is at an all-time high. So those are my creatures. Now, let's go on to artifacts. The Circle of Loyalty, legendary artifact. A lot of legendaries in this deck, remember. Spell costs 1 less to cast for each knight you control. There's a lot of knights in this deck too. Kind of goes along with humans. Creatures I control get +1/+1. Whenever I cast a legendary spell, I create a white knight creature and a creature. I create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance if I pay 4 mana. Conda's Banner, great for 5-color decks. It can only be attached to a legendary creature. A lot of legendaries in this, so that is great. Creatures that share a color with it get +1/+1. Creatures that share a creature type with it get +1/+1. Chromatic Lantern, a little bit of mana fixing for this deck, 5-color deck. Commander Sphere, amazing when your commander has 5 colors in his identity. A little bit of mana ramp with the Arcane Signet. The Animus, you knew that was in there when I talked about Sean agents, right? From the Assassin's Creed set at the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target legendary creature from a graveyard with a memory counter on it. Until your next turn, target legendary creature you control becomes a copy of target legendary creature in exile with a memory counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery. Andril, Flame of the West, great weapon. Legendary again. Equipped creature gets +3/+1. Whenever equipped creature attacks, create 2 tapped 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. If that creature is legendary, instead create 2 of those tokens. Horn of Gondor. Let's make a bunch of white human soldiers. Timeless Lotus, great for mana fixing in a 5-color deck. The Spear of Leonidas, another legendary weapon. All right, the Helm of the Host. At the beginning of your combat, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except that token isn't legendary, and that token gains haste. Excalibur, Sword of Eden, massive casting cost, but you're going to get it out for really cheap because it costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of historic permanents you control. So really, I'm going to get this out for almost nothing. Equipped creature gets +10/+0 and has vigilance, and you equip it for 2. All right, now, one of the things with mana value, I'm always talking about the mana value of my decks. And let me get a drink of my pre-workout. Did I remind you? I didn't introduce the show this time. How rude. Muscles, Magic the Gathering. I'm Bobby Maximus. I am the muscles. These are the cards. Magic the Gathering, a passion of mine for over 30 years. Need a drink of my pre-workout because when I'm done this, I'm going to go work on my muscles. But anyway, when I talk about mana value of the decks, I don't use average, cost per card or nothing like that. I use mana value for the whole deck. So the mana value of this card is 12. The mana value of that card is 4. That's 16. Add 3 to that. That's 15. Add 5. That's 20. Add all the cards together. My opinion, for a deck to be really competitive, it's got to be under 200. Now, this deck comes in at 204, but it's not a real number because that Excalibur's at 12. That's going to drop it down under 200, and I'm never going to pay 12 for that card. So sometimes it's artificially inflated. And besides the point, it's not like 199 is that much better than 204, right? But as a general rule of thumb, the more you can lower the mana value of their decks and keep the power the same, the better your deck is going to work. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. You can get down from a 300 to a 280, keep the same power level. It's going to work better. Coat of Arms, Creature Anthem, all right, for my humans. Crystal Skull, Isu Spyglass. Anytime, at any time I can look at the top card of my library, I can play historic lands and cast historic spells from the top of my library. It also acts as a bit of mana ramping. Mithril Coat, all right, maybe the greatest protection piece of all time. Indestructible. And it's legendary. Embercleave. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. When it enters the battlefield attached to a target creature you control, enchanted creature gets +1/+1 as double strike and trample. The Relic of Legends. You know this had to be in here. Add a mana of any color and tap an untapped legendary creature you control. Add 1 mana of any color. The Champion's Helm. As long as this equipped creature is legendary, it has hexproof. They get +2/+2. Soul Ring, little mana ramp, and another legendary artifact, Molnir, the Storm Hammer. So a lot of legendary artifacts in this deck. Let's talk enchantments. Line of the Guild Pack. All right. Line of the Guild Pack. So your opening hand, you begin with it on the battlefield. Each non-land permanent you control is all colors. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. Card really helps with mana fixing, especially if you get it in the opening hand. Elven Chorus. Creatures you control have add 1 mana of any color. You look at the top card of your library, cast creature spells from the top of your library, so again, a little bit of mana fixing. Flower of the White Tree, necessary in this deck. Maybe this is the best deck for it, to be honest, although I use this card a lot. Legendary creatures you control get +2/+1, have ward 1. Non-legendaries get +1/+1. We are not worried about that. Rising of the Day, another anthem for legendary creatures. They all get +1/+0. Creatures I control get haste. A saga. War of an historic card, War of the Last Alliance. Search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand. That's for step 1 and 2. Step 3, creatures you control gain double strike until the end of the turn. The ring tempts you. Then we have these joins up cards from the Outlaws of Thunder Junction. All right. Kellen joins up. When Kellen joins up, enters the battlefield, you may exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. A lot of legendary creatures in this deck. This card goes hard. Vraska joins up. When Vraska joins up, enters the battlefield, put a death touch counter on each creature you control. Whenever a legendary creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then Tiny Bones. I love Tiny Bones, by the way. When Tiny Bones joins up, enters the battlefield, any number of target player, each discard a card. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, any number of target creatures, each mill a card and lose life. So a lot of synergy. There is a card called Annie Joins Up. I wish it was in this deck, but I only had one of them, and I already used it in my Boja Jaws of the Conclave deck, and that's part of the thing with this series. I use real cards. I don't use proxies, and this is my collection, and I've got over 50 Commander decks right now, and so a lot of you will get in the comments and you'll say, hey, Bobby, where's your Imperial Seal? Why didn't you put a Demonic Tutor in here? Why didn't you put an Aetherflux Reservoir in here? Why didn't you put this in here? Because I didn't have any left, and I'm doing the best I can with the cards I have. And that's why I'd like to think this is the most real Magic the Gathering channel on the planet. Because you will get these people that will say, hey, I'm going to build a Goblin deck, and they'll use the graphics on the screen, you know what I'm talking about, and they'll pick every optimal card. When I build my Goblin deck, I built it from cards we had. Like just off camera, I have a giant stack of, these are multicolored cards. I got a giant stack of blue cards, a giant stack of white cards. These are all the cards that I've organized and built from. And this is how I build decks. And sometimes I don't have the cards, right? Now, eventually I will buy them. Annie Joins Up is on my wish list of cards that I need to add. But that's where we are. And that's why this is the realest channel on the planet. On that note, go in the comments. Any cards that you think I should add to this deck, please. I want to know. Like, I've collected for over 30 years. At one point, I had over 40 complete sets. I've got over 50 full Commander decks. But there's a lot of cards I don't know exist, right? A lot of cards I forget about. So any cards you would add to this, please let me know. Now let's go on an instance of sorcery. We've got a Worldly Tutor. Let's get a creature out of here. A Gamble, another tutor. Search your library for a card. Put that card into your hand. Discard a card at random, then shuffle. Another tutor, Time of Need. Search your library for a legendary creature card. Reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle your library. Now, would I like a Demonic, an Imperial Seal, and a Vampiric? Sure, but in this deck, these cards work absolutely great. So we've got some tutors. We have the Assassin's Trophy, one of the greatest removal spells of all time because it will destroy a target permanent. This is huge. I got to talk about this. Bobby Maximus, the Muscles, loves asymmetrical board wipes. You know what I'm not a fan of? And I use them sometimes, like a Wrath of God, just destroy all creatures, because my creatures get the business too. But return each non-land permanent that's not historic to its owner's hand. This is an asymmetrical board wipe, and in this deck, it is awesome. Fourth Lingus, create a bunch of human knight creatures. Okay, there is a human theme here. And then the Banner of Kinship. I needed some more human anthems in here, so the Banner of Kinship 1. Lands, let's talk about basic lands first. I have one basic land in here simply because it's autographed by the artist. That's another thing. When I build decks, I want to put cards that mean a lot to me, and I do get a lot of my cards autographed. I actually got to show you something here for a second. So this is the latest autographed card that I have gotten. Well, let me see if I can find it here. Check this out. Autographed Ancient Copper Dragon. Not going in this deck, but I had to show it. I do get a lot of my cards autographed by the artist if I can. I've been lucky to, and I always feature them in the deck, so I had to show that off. Thank you. A little off topic, but I wanted to show you. Anyway, we got this autographed Lonely Island, all right? Now for the non-basic lands, we have Addarkar Wastes. We have the Black Gate, all right? Great land. As the Black Gate enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. Choose a player with the most life or tied for the most life. Target creature can't be blocked by creatures that player controls this turn. Battlefield Forge, Shivan Reef, Exotic Orchard, incredible in a 5-color deck. Helm's Deep. All right, target legendary creature gains first strike to the end of turn. Brushland, Vesuva, Llanowar Wastes, Seachrome Coast, Opal Palace. You taking notes? We got a lot of legendary lands in here. Mount Doom, Okina, Temple to the Grandfathers. Target legendary creature gets +1/+1 till the end of turn. Besaijo, Who Endures, incredible card. Willow Rush Burge, Path of Ancestry, Command Tower, the Grey Havens, Jetmir's Garden. And I am shaking my camera trying to get these cards out. I apologize. Zeator's Proving Ground, Inn of the Prancing Pony, just Prune of the Pillars, Rafine's Tower, Training Center. I'm just going to take these away. The pile's getting a little high. Carplusian Forest, Fortified Beachhead, a way to make some soldiers, and there are some soldiers in this deck. The Marsh Flats, Castle of Ardenvale, Plaza of Heroes. Check this out. Add a colorless mana. Add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a legendary spell. Add 1 mana of any color among legendary permanents you control. Or exile Plaza of Heroes. Target legendary creature gains hexproof and indestructible till the end of turn. Awesome card. Great Hall of the Citadel. Great for legendary creatures. Baradur. Abstergo Entertainment. All right. Great for legendary creatures. The Mines of Moria. Rivendell, the Shire, Flooded Strand, and the Prairie Stream. So there you have it. There are all the lands. Legendary Matters, one of my favorite build-outs ever. It was a lot of fun because I got to include a lot of legendary creatures that I love, and I got to make another humans deck. It makes me sad when I can't include all my humans, right? And that's why I have a couple of human decks. I have a couple of vampire decks. I have a couple of goblin decks. I have a couple of elf decks. I have a couple of Eldrazi decks, like Eldrazi, colored Eldrazi versus uncolored Eldrazi. And so I've got all the decks. Like I said, I will put a link to this deck and my Moxfield profile in the show notes so you can see all of my decks. But thank you for spending some time with me. This is one of my favorite decks. And one of my favorite things in the world is, sure, you might see the UFC stuff behind me. You might see me drinking my pre-workout. You might see me lifting weights all the time, and that's a big part of my life. You know what else is a big part of my life? Magic, the Gathering, building decks, tinkering decks. In fact, by the time you get to this video, this deck may have changed because I am always adding some new things. With Final Fantasy coming out, you know there's going to be some legendary humans, maybe Cloud, that I can put in this deck. So I'm really, really excited to keep working on decks, to keep sharing them with you, and share my passion with you. Thank you again for being part of it. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to comment. And again, anything you want me to add to this deck, please put in the comments because chances are I will next time.